Okay, everybody, we're back again. So excited to be back every Wednesday. Um, so, as we hop on, a few quick items. As you can see and hear me, just throw those highs out there. Let me know where you're watching from. And just so I can get a pulse and know that I'm speaking to a real live audience. And obviously I can see the ticker and I can see the comments coming in, but those warm and fuzzies, as I'll mention every week, they're always really nice. So coming into our live today, we have a lot less questions to start, which is good news because it allows us to talk through some fun things before we get started. And of course, the goal of any of these live sessions is we're going to dive through and get through all the questions. And depending on the day, typically we run about an hour and a half. And I typically get about 20 minutes behind on the questions pretty early on. So if you do have your questions, just know that I'll get to them in order. And thanks. Hi from LA. Okay. In SoCal. You're close by. I'm in San Diego. So let's oh, hi from India. I just want to quickly comment on the India piece. I am considering maybe starting or going a little bit earlier on the lives to be a little bit more India friendly from a time perspective, and obviously the time shift will help us a little bit, but it will still be late. So something that I'm contemplating. Okay. Oh, awesome. We have people coming from all over. That's pretty normal for us, which is really, really cool. So let's dive in. Let's talk about just a few items, and then we'll kick off and we'll dive right into the questions. And that's the point of this platform. We always try and come up with a funky title, and I'll just mention really quickly that we'll talk about the value of a brand here for a minute, but we'll just dive massively into Q&A. So if this is your first time and you've never subscribed to our channel, please consider subscribing. We release a new video every other Tuesday, usually before noon Pacific if I can get it done. And then we do lives every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And I will always let the community know if I'm going to skip a week in terms of a live or any video production. We are releasing a course, and I think there'll be some questions about the course today. The beta went out yesterday. Went out to the original 50 people who signed up for the beta. We're allowing people to test the course for free, and then the paid course will be out on 4/5 without exception. I cannot move that date. I think anybody who's been here before knows that that date's moved a couple times. So 4/5, the paid course will be out, and then we'll introduce some additional cool items with the course, more group interview coaching packages, group coaching, to just make it a little bit more accessible to a wider audience. So really, really excited about that. And we will open up the beta probably to other people. We just have to test it for 3 days to a week just to see how that feedback is coming in. Okay, let's quickly talk about two other items, and then I want to dive in. As the audience probably knows, I don't like to waste a lot of time with a lot of fluff. I like to get right into the weeds. So yesterday's video. Actually, surprisingly, you can't see the dislikes on YouTube, but a lot of people didn't like that video yesterday, which is good. It's good. I hit a chord with some people, but if we're going to come in with comp questions today, I will be pushing back a little bit to that video. The video really focused in on how you could use levels.fyi and look at software engineer salaries to basically calculate any salary in any area. It's basically 70% to 75% of a software engineering salary for any market, for any role. So really check out that video yesterday. I think it was great. And while people disliked it, it got a lot of views. So I think it struck a chord with people. The last piece is just the title of this. It's the value of a brand. And, I think I'm so representative of that, right? What has the Google brand done for me, for my life, for my career? It's been priceless, right? It allows me to live anywhere in the world. It allows me to work from anywhere. It allows me the opportunity to connect with a much bigger audience than I felt like I was connecting with while I was at Google. So the value of a brand is really important. And so it doesn't mean you have to go after these jobs and stay forever. Understand how impactful and important the value of a brand is. Okay, let's dive in. Remember, it's not just Q&A, comments. Anything that you think would add value to this community. Remember, we're a positive community. I will kick you out if you're negative, not negative in a bad way. Like, we can obviously bring up some not toxic positivity. We will talk about some negative items, but just keep a positive tone. That's the real goal of our platform. Okay, 5 minutes in. That's a really long opening for me. So thank you for hanging in there. Let's dive in. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Interested to provide feedback on the beta course. Okay, so anybody who's interested in providing feedback, jump into the Slack group, jump into announcements, and start just putting your name in there. So Slack group, and under the announcements category, you'll see the announcement of the beta group, just so we can track it. Otherwise, it's going to get really hard for us to track. Thanks. You went through team match, but HC down leveled you. Okay. An appeal was put to the senior VP for a higher level. What are the chances of being approved? Anything that you should be aware of? And if approved, does it go back to HC? Okay, so when it gets escalated up to the senior VP level, that probably means that there was some really good viable data, JJ, for you. So that's good news. Does it necessarily have to go back to HC? Not necessarily, right? Sometimes these processes, they're not quite as rigid. We externally hear about HC, but we've seen a lot of, thematically in 2022, a lot of HC drops, like HC is being dropped out of the process for candidates that are doing well. So it could just get approved and then you could move to comp. So it's a little bit of an unknown, but it's actually not a bad thing. If it's going all the way up to the senior VP level, they're seeing you as a critical hire, and that's good news. So obviously come back next week and keep us posted. You have a recruiter call in an hour and a half, GCP, enterprise, account executive, financials. Okay, do they require a lot of technical knowledge on the cloud? You come from a financial sales background. Any words of advice? No, just have a really nice, enthusiastic, friendly conversation. This can go in a few different ways. Are you supposed to be a cloud expert? Absolutely not. That's not the goal, but up your cloud knowledge, up your cloud game. If you're here taking the time to sit in this live, like, just make sure you understand the basics of GCP. It's really helpful, just because your competitors are. So the more you can up that knowledge, it will also translate into better success in the interview, because the relevancy of bringing in GCP solutions in the solutioning component of your open-ended answers will be really valuable. Okay, so we got a hi from LA, India, Jersey. My mom grew up in Jersey City. Slovakia, amazing. Okay. In a meeting, we'll come tune in right after. Okay, awesome. Italy, amazing. Brazil, one of my favorite places in the world. Okay, Slovakia, amazing. Okay, what are the differences in the phone screen between a contract sourcer and Google Recruiter? Really nothing. So contract is really not viewed any differently. I mean, I was a contractor and I had the same responsibilities as a full-time employee. So remember, some roles will start with a sourcer and some won't. And a number of these roles will be hybrids, right? Recruiters should always be sourcing. The only time recruiters really aren't sourcing is for software engineers. There's just no way I could handle the volume of trying to recruit and source for software engineers, because the sourcing team for software engineers is so robust. It's just a constant pipeline of candidates. But for every other role, for program management, and then the more customer engineering focused roles, or they were kind of technical, hybrid technical roles that I focused in on my last year. I was definitely doing a ton of sourcing. So that could mean you get reached out to from a full-time sourcer, a contract sourcer, full-time recruiter, contract recruiter, but it's all the same. Been in team match for a couple months. Okay. Pre-HC, recruiter is super unresponsive and it's becoming a drag. Should I consider reaching out to HMs myself via LinkedIn and internal sources? You can always get creative. Just try not to step on toes. And then, obviously, and it's not great advice, so keep that in mind. But the best way to get the team match stage going is to stay active in the interview process and bring any competing offers to the table. I know that is not a great strategy, but it works. So it's what I recommend. It makes it It's a very, very hard approach to say, hey, just go get another job offer. But it's a viable one. And if you're kind of in that interview mode, it can be a good strategy. Okay. Hi, welcome. Amazing. Argentina, Buenos Aires is probably my favorite city in the world. So awesome. Orange County, I used to live in San Clemente. So good to see you. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for all the content. I have a question. Made it's a team match for finance role. Looks like the outcome was a mutual fit. It's before 8. Is the HC before or after team match? Well, you made it to the team match. So it sounds like maybe they're doing team match before HC. It can come before or after. It just depends. It depends on your interview feedback. It depends on your recruiter. It depends on a lot of things, but it sounds like it's coming before. Hi from Germany. I've been to Berlin. That's the only place I've been in Germany, but amazing city. How long from recruiter call to offer? 3 months? Well, it would depend on the company, but if you're saying a company like Google, yeah, 3 months. I mean, it can move faster, obviously, just depending on the circumstance, but just bringing patience into the process and expecting a long process can be a really, really positive thing. Got a Google Suite Bay Area offer, but was only given 48 hours to accept. Is that normal for Google? How would I go about getting more time to decide? Well, you got the offer. Okay. So you should definitely be negotiating that offer. So that should take longer. And this is a recruiter tactic. There's nothing internally that is forcing you to accept in 48 hours. They are playing a game with you, and it's your opportunity to push back a little bit. But absolutely for Squeeze, just make sure that you are strongly negotiating your offer and that you're using levels.fyi to see what the baseline for your level is, because there's so much good data. You really want to be pushing as much as you can. And then obviously knowing that certain areas are going to pay more, like MLAI will pay more than somebody who's just generic or full stack or back end, etc. Okay, so what would you recommend Google versus seed-funded startup at a $12 million valuation for a new grad in India? This is a great question. So I'm going to start by saying I can't answer that question, but here's a couple things to think about. It's really valuable for the conversation we're having today. I mean, if you can get into Google, if you have a Google offer, again, what's the value of the brand? Google is probably going to carry more weight for better future opportunities, and that's just a fact. But if you're somebody who really likes building, you like building process, you like building strategy, you like building products, startups are a great environment. If you're okay with coming in with a lot of process and you like to navigate with clearly defined goals, process, strategies, etc., then big organizations typically do better. But I mean, the value of Google's brand is priceless. And I've talked a lot about this, and not everybody agrees with this, but my own personal opinion is that globally, Google has the strongest brand in the world. But there's niche down brands there's brands that are better for niche down roles. Like if you're a designer, Apple is the best brand in the world. If you're a social media expert, maybe Meta is the best brand in the world. But generically, Google's brand just carries so much value. And how do I know that? 3 to 6 months after getting the job. I've never been crushed more with job opportunities, people wanting to connect, et cetera. And I think it's just kind of common knowledge, but obviously it is my opinion. What are less common questions to expect from a source or recruiter during a phone screen? Well, they can common, but maybe less common is that they could ask you a behavioral or open-ended question. I've had some people come back to me and say that I used to do that, even though I don't remember doing that. I obviously leaned open-ended. That was kind of my swing. But just remember, every recruiter is going to be a little different. It's like the hiring manager. Every hiring manager interview is going to be a little different. Just be friendly and kind. Be on time. Show great communication skills. Show great listening skills. Those were the biggest things that I looked for. Interviewing for UXR at G, passed technical interview, and now you're in T-Match. G said to do T-Match before on-site for UXR, but you can also do T-Match. It can occur at any point. Okay. Is it possible that the interview process could end at this point if a team isn't identified? Yeah, Adam, this is an interesting question. So I almost, so here's the challenge. Like, yeah, you could just say, hey, let's go through the interview process, see how I do. But the more team specific it gets, it makes it easier in the interviews. So I think if I were in your position, I would just try and push forward into the interviews if they're open to it. And then find a team match at the end, because once you've passed the interviews, it makes it a little bit, makes your candidacy more interesting. Now, of course, I don't know anything about your background. You might be a baller, and it might be easy to find a team match just based on your background and experience. So it's really up to you. But it can, the team match piece can just be slow. So I don't think it would hurt to get into the interview process. Let me know if you have other questions. Anna, I am good. How are you? Thank you for asking. You cleared the recruiter round for Google Cloud Solution. What suggestion would you give me for the technical round? Okay, so you're going into a Google Cloud Solutions role. Solutions role are typically solutions consultants. So you can come back and tell me more. But for solutions consultants, the technical should be figuring out more like customer solutions and then collaboration with internal stakeholders to figure out those technical solutions. So typically, Google Cloud Solutions tends to lean more on the consulting side, but let me know if it's a different role. You're watching CC because your sound isn't coming through. Great topic. Thanks, Jeff. Okay. Oh, interesting. LinkedIn does not have sound. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's happening, and I unfortunately don't know how to fix it. So sorry to hear that. I don't know what's happening with LinkedIn and StreamYard today, but I will message StreamYard and give them feedback. Thank you. You have an interview next Wednesday. Sorry, I'll come back to this. If you want, just hop on YouTube, jump off of LinkedIn. I have an interview next Wednesday with the hiring manager at Google in the Atlanta office for analytical lead position. No technical interview mentioned, so what can I expect to do to impress? Well, analytical leads are going to be data-driven and collaborative-driven. So I would just make sure that you're touching base with your recruiter and really finding out, like, what is the category or what is the focus area of these interviews. Just make sure that they're telling you and that you're touching base and that you're pushing them to give you as many details as possible. How is the interview difficulty calibrated for each level? That is, are the questions different for PMs at L4 or L5? Is the rubric different? Is the answer expectation different? The questions aren't really different. They kind of know it when they hear it. And so what I try to encourage of all candidates is don't try and push to add items to your answers that aren't natural. It will make an already difficult interview process more difficult. But at each level, yeah, they're looking for levels of leadership, driving massive programs or projects with lots of scope, big teams, lots of diversity, etc. So they're just trying to see what you've done in the past and obviously how you problem solve, but can't really change all of that. And trying to change our pitch and tone and words to try and hit a different level, it's just not something I recommend. Again, I want to remove the complexity, not add to it, but usually the questions aren't changing that much. Now, of course, as you get up to L6 or L7, they're going to be more leadership driven questions. But L3, L4, L5 would be similar questions. Okay, this is a great question. We get this question quite a bit. The technical judgment interviews for TPM, if it does not involve system design or coding, which is pretty common. So a lot of data out there that says all these TPM interviews have system design. That's not true. We have to ask our recruiters, but technical judgment is based on your technical judgment of how you've utilized technical judgment in the past, and then how you problem solve using technical judgment. Who are the key stakeholders you bring in? What is the technical data that you look at? How do you look at features, requirements, risks, you know, then getting a little bit more technical, looking towards things like availability, maintainability, etc. So it's really going to be based on previous experience and then driving towards just how you utilize technology in your judgment. I hope that helps. What are some of the types or examples of domain YouTube expertise questions for product managers? Okay, so 100% tryexponent.com. Tryexponent.com. That's Steven and his co-founder. You'll see all sorts of product videos on YouTube. I think they have like 200,000 subscribers. They have sourced all these public product questions. But for YouTube, the questions tend to be about what kind of ads you'll show on YouTube, improving ads, estimate the number of YouTube views per day. But you'll see a ton of YouTube questions. So tryexponent.com is a great resource for practice questions for product managers. And that's where I send everybody, even my product clients. I'll send them there for the questions. Okay. So we answered that question. Just know that I'll get to every question, so no need to duplicate questions. Clear the recruiter. Okay, so again, 2 duplicate questions. I will get to all your questions, and I'll always run about 15, 20, 25 minutes behind, but I'll get to everything. Can you give an example of how high you would... Thanks for all the helpful info. Can you give an example of how high you would negotiate higher comp with competing offers, assuming you've already anchored high? Oh, without competing offers. Sorry, I misread that. So anchoring is asking for what you want. So you can always anchor high, but yeah, competing offers help. But if you already anchored high, you're just trying to negotiate higher. Yeah, you're basically saying, okay, here was my anchor. If they hit your anchor, then negotiating for more gets a lot tougher. If they didn't hit your anchor, then it's very easy to say, look, we're getting close. But when you get to the end, say, look, I know we hit my anchor, but I've just done my research, and I think if we can get 10K more on the base, or if we can add 50K more to the equity, I'm good. I'm ready to move forward. But it's tricky if they hit your anchor and then you try and re-anchor. That's the point of an anchor. The anchor has been set. So once the anchor is set, it gets harder to pivot. If I didn't answer your question, come back, please. Recently accepted a sweet role at Bolt after being in post-HT matching at Google for 2+ months. A little bummed it didn't work out, but a big thank you. Awesome, Charles. I mean, so you were in post-HCT matching for 2 months. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have another opportunity. So if Google's your dream company, like, hang out, like, stay open. I don't want you to take off from the job you accepted right away. But if the perfect scenario happened, you're just going to have to burn a bridge. Does each interviewer and on-site get assigned a product area to explore? Meaning, should it be unlikely to get 5 rounds of product sense questions and as unlikely to get 0 technical questions? Yes, each person comes in with a focus area. One of the items I want to, product sense is usually one interview or parts of 2 interviews is classically what I've seen. The one thing I just want to mention to the entire audience, regardless of your role, sometimes interviewers will ask you the same question or something really close. Just flag it. Sue, I'm happy to answer that question, but Jane asked it to me in the last interview. So I just wanted to flag that. Just always flag it because sometimes they'll duplicate or repeat questions. But for product, nope, technical interview is guaranteed. That is a part of the product process. Hey, Jeff, waited long to say this. Thank you much for the content. Got your offer from Google. Just here to show appreciation. Started sharing your content with friends and family. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. We had a crazy session last session where I think 11 people came in and told us they got the job offer. So you're number 2 here, which is just awesome. And people always ask me if I do Patreon or if I do buy me a coffee or any of that stuff. I don't None of that stuff. Just spread the word. That does amazing things for my channel and my business. So I really appreciate it. And so happy to have been a small part of your journey. Okay, so we answered that. After hiring committee review, your recruiter told me need for additional support interview for a support engineer. Any tips? Yeah, so I think I got to this on the YouTube comments early this morning, but you just have to crush that next interview. So whatever you need to do, get coaching, do practice interviews. When we get that follow-up interview after hiring committee, you have to get a hire or strong hire. They have to have a really, really positive sign. It means that they liked you, but there was just a little bit of a signal missing and they want a little bit more. So just do anything and everything you can to get prepared for that last interview. Thanks for posting. Total comp. Yeah, you asked about comp managers within LATAM. Okay, so you're looking for data points for Argentina specifically. Okay. This is really, really tricky because like for Buenos Aires, for example, like the tax implications are, I went through this with a client and it took a lot to get through the heavy tax implications and like the currency conversion. And it was challenging. I just want you to really do your research. I mean, all I can tell you is that at the end of the day, it was like whatever the salary and total comp was, the conversion and taxes and everything was, this person was only getting like 30% of the offer. And I can't imagine that it would be any different for you. So whatever number you want to get in Buenos Aires, which is the big market in Argentina, you're just going to have to drive that up and you're going to have to educate your recruiter, especially if they're not coming from the market, on your needs. Those are my two biggest suggestions. I really hope that helps, but do your research because it's a very, very tricky market in my experience. And again, I don't know what part of Argentina you're in, but Buenos Aires, I mean, what an amazing city. I love it. I'm looking for a program manager job at Google. Would you recommend any certifications? No, I for program management, they're really looking for more experience than anything else. So they don't have a specific methodology. Now, some teams obviously are going to follow a specific methodology, but anything you can from a learning perspective to up your skills, it's obviously something I recommend, but it's going to help in the interview process, but they're not looking for any specific certifications for most roles. Does YouTube ask product interview questions about their own product? Build, design. Yep. YouTube is not separate, but you'll get YouTube questions. You'll get maps questions. You'll get search questions. You'll get like the suite of like home, Nest, the Google Home Router questions. They'll hit every single thing in their product suite, especially their big products. So absolutely expect it. And then expect questions about competitors too. Like, how would you monetize WhatsApp? It's a question they asked at Google. They asked the question of like, what if Amazon Prime started charging for, it's like something like charging more for gift wrapping or something? Again, try exponent.com. You'll see a ton of good questions. Okay, so sound not working on LinkedIn. Again, if it's not working on LinkedIn, just jump over to YouTube. It's just YouTube/Jeff H. Sipe. You'll find me and you'll see that we're streaming. And hopefully StreamYard will give me some sort of refund for it not working today because it's a bummer. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate you. On the appeal question, recruiter is in parallel asking comp expectations before leveling decision. Is that to be expected? No, that's kind of annoying because your comp will be dependent upon level. So I don't want you saying anything, literally nothing. Like just, let's see, I'm trying to run a few actions in parallel to speed up the process, maybe, but it's super inefficient. I would never go to comp and say comp at this level, but we might be at the next level. I just wouldn't waste my time with that. It's not a good use of their time. It's not a good use of your time. And you will give no responses on comp because it's a ineffective process. Answered that. Is it common for an applicant to get hired with all lean hire scores? No, but I would say it depends. Lean hire is a stronger result than people think, but it just depends on HC, the role, hiring manager statement of support, etc. But if everybody's leaning towards hiring you, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Security, TPM role, NYC or Kirkland, recruiter indicating L6, L7, TPM interviewer never showed up for my interview. Will this impact my process? What's a good anchor? All right, Keith, I'm going to be driving people towards the video I created yesterday, and especially just because TPMs, there's so much good data on levels.fyi that's definitely an item you can research. But for NYC, for L6, you want to push 400K plus total comp for your average. And then for Kirkland, you're probably going to take a haircut of about 30K per year. Total comp, that means those first years are going to be much bigger. But the fact that the interviewer didn't show up, you just want to provide that feedback, say no worries, happy to redo the interview. But that's totally unacceptable, obviously. Okay, awesome. Number 3, I always mentally keep track, even though I get lost. So amazing news. Obviously, it's it's a pleasure to be able to share this content for free and have this platform to do it. And we're lucky we live in this time where we can share data the way we do. So congrats, and I'm so happy that you came back and let us know. I always genuinely appreciate that. Posted on LinkedIn about giving feedback to your recruiter when things go bad. Yes. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much. Okay, audience, let's pay attention to this. This is really, really important. I posted on LinkedIn about giving feedback to your recruiter when things go bad, and you gave that feedback to Meta, and they agreed that it should have gone better, and they granted you another interview. This is not always the scenario or case, but we have to provide direct feedback. Interviewers are acting really, really, really poorly. We're in a virtual environment, so they can do whatever they want. They're not turning their cameras on. They're not showing up. They're showing up late. They're saying only having a half an hour. They're clearly not listening. They're checking their email, the sports score. They're watching a movie while they're talking to you. I mean, anything and everything is happening. We provide feedback. And in a worst case scenario, if you don't get another opportunity like Steven, maybe, just maybe you pay it forward for the next person. And that's just putting good vibes out into the universe, right? So it's really, really important that we're giving and providing this good feedback. It is critical. We're half an hour in, or a little past a half an hour. I'm clearly 20 plus minutes behind. I will get to every question, I promise you. Quick prompt. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific live, and then every other Tuesday, I will come out with original content, new content. And then our new course is going to be released, our paid course 4.5. I'm super, super excited about it. Okay, situation. I did the onsite and positive overall, but Googleyness score slightly fell short. So you've been told you can go to team match or do the interview over again to get a team match. Do the interview over. Googleyness and leadership is one of the easiest interviews to repeat. Like GCA, RRK, all these other ones are tougher. Googleyness and leadership is really thinking and talking about inclusivity, helping others, dealing with challenges, really digging into the weeds of your behavioral answers, and then really showing good in-depth listening, questioning, collaborative problem-solving skills on the open-ended side. I would redo it. HC is hiring committee. It's a part of Google's interview process. Is there a specific RRK and GL interview for product managers, or all these qualities examined? Yeah, the RRK will not so much. That will come in like product analysis, product sense, etc. So it will come across the board, but you should have some form of a GNL interview, or it could be combined in interviews. Thank you for enough. You received your offer letter on Monday this week for an L5 customer engineer in London, the package you want. Matt, amazing. Again, thank you so much for being here. We're really hitting a bunch of my favorite cities today in the world. London is obviously at the top of my list, top of a lot of people's lists. So can't wait to get back. I was there a few years ago. So congrats. Just so excited. And obviously I'm prompted to a lot of my love for these cities, but it's always just fun to see the audience. Thank you. What kind of standing desk do you recommend? So I have mine's more of not really a desk. I like something really thin. I am a minimalist, so mine's really, really lean. Now, some people like the up and down desk. I really like a high chair because I just think it's easier to have a high chair and like go from standing to sitting very, very quickly as opposed to hitting the button. I know that's a weird thing, but I like a high chair with a higher desk that's stationary. Hope that helps. Internal promotion at Google UK from L5 to L6, Eng manager. Can you negotiate your equity and salary? You are welcome, and you cannot. You do not negotiate comp or equity when you get promoted, but when you get promoted, usually the base increases are big, 20% plus, and that is typically a very, very strong refresher grant the year you get promoted. Final interview this week for an account strategist role. This is after a screen call with the recruiter and 2 first-round interviews with the HR, the lead. Any tips? Yeah, just do all the things we've been talking about, right? Just continue to work those strong behavioral answers. And on the open-ended side, just continue to think about problem solving for your customers, but don't forget when problem solving for your customers to bring that internal lens and working with internal teams to get it done. Got approved for hire L4 HC and you have an offer en route. However, you have a competing offer at the L5, L6 range. Okay, where are your other comments? Okay. Will Google be able to match that while staying at the L4 comp bracket? And how long will it take? London. Okay, for London, yeah, let's see. You're just gonna, you have to see where that offer is landing. And if those competings are going to drive it up, but the competings usually do. So how close they can get depends on how big the competings are. I know that's a very, very high level answer, but I hope it helps. Yeah, so 1 in 3 chance. After you go to HC and you have a follow-up interview, it's about 1 in 3. I've been in the team match stage. Post-final round of my recruiter told me that she thinks it's best to retry for PM roles in September, a couple months post-interview. She mentioned she would do another team match first in September and then go through on-sites after. Yeah, this is always unfortunate when they just kind of give up on you, but that's just based on the fact that there hasn't been a ton of interest. All you can do is create a prep strategy and plan. Meaning it's not my expectation that you're prepping every day or even every week right now, but create a 2 or 3 month strategy plan where you're setting aside an hour, a couple of hours every week. And then part of that prep plan, you've got to start practicing with people, and I just know it's not happening. I know we're not putting forth the effort to practice with others. And here's why it's so important. Well, there's a million reasons why, but one of the biggest reasons is just so you fumble over your words. Because if you stumble and fumble over your words while you're practicing with somebody else, getting out the cobwebs, you're kind of working through it. So create that strategy. And, I've said this a lot, the best way to have success, bribe people. People like wine. They like pizza. They like beer. I always focus on food and alcohol because those tend to be 2 drivers, but maybe you have a friend who needs new clothes. So you send them a $50 gift card to Amazon, right? But pay it back with giving your friends things for taking the time to practice with you. But we got to practice with others. That's my strong recommendation. Set the plan. It doesn't have to be right now that you're prepping every day. I think that's a little unrealistic. But when you're like a couple months out, really set that plan and move forward with it. got an offer for an L3, 170 total comp, strategy and ops based in Mountain View. We have another offer for 290. Do you think Google would be able to match? If I turn down Google, will it look bad if I want to reapply in the future? So I have a very strong opinion on this. I don't think that they'll reach 290 for an L3. That's quite a leap, but we just got to see what they can do. My best guess is that they're at 170 based on that 290, but I don't know. Maybe they can move it into the low twos. If there's like a 100K differential, I'm taking the other job because I'm working for financial freedom. That's my goal as a candidate, as a person. Other people have different goals. Of course, there's passion. I get to do a job where I have a ton of passion and excitement behind it. But, we are working for financial freedom. So if there's a huge gap, I say take the other role. I have had clients. I had one client recently who I worked with negotiation, and they took 400K less to go to Google. This is a unique scenario, of course, but it's really up to you to decide. But will you have another opportunity in the future? Absolutely. Yeah, they track declines pretty strongly. Now negotiate that offer up as high as you can so that if you wanted to revisit within a calendar year, which they'll allow, if that role is still open, if there's a hiring team open, you can re-up that offer. So it's important that even if you are going to decline, you negotiate as much as you can. And obviously you want to do that anyway to see how close they can get to see if you're going to take them over the competing. Good luck. Okay. Hi, Jeff. Could you touch upon opportunities we get after TSE graduate role at Google, and how soon are we eligible for an internal switch? Well, so a TSE is a technical solutions engineer. This is the #1 position that I recruited for in my last year at Google, TSEs for cloud. I mean, what TSEs are doing is they're teaching you a lot about working with your technical skills, but a lot about communication and collaboration. There's lots of places you can go, from analysts, sometimes to program management roles, to even more customer-facing engineering roles. But internal switch, 2 years. Really I don't see a lot of switches happening before then. Year 1, just learning the ropes, right? And then year 2 is your opportunity to really grow, drive, get promoted. If you are going to make an internal switch at any company, my strong recommendation is make that switch right when you get promoted. Because if we get promoted and then we move after a year or two, we're just like setting back the clock to like prove ourselves with this new team. But think 2 years. Oh, no worries. It happens. Yep. 4th person to tell us LinkedIn sound isn't working. Yes, this is on YouTube, and we are live on YouTube. So leave LinkedIn, hop over to YouTube, because the sound, I believe, is working on the YouTube side of things. Just landed a job at Google. Thanks for your videos. Thanks a lot. Content is invaluable. Amazing. Thank you so much. Again, it's so appreciate people coming onto this platform. It's like, you're done. I don't want to listen to this interview stuff anymore. Like, you're past it. You've moved on. So thank you, everybody. And if you're here listening and you do land the job in the future, come back and let us know. It's awesome. Anxious about applying since you just started a new job. You're reached out to in March by the recruiter last time. Google is your dream company. How do recruiters look at such candidates? They don't care. They just want to get you hired and hit their numbers. So you can reach out, and yeah, I mean, you don't like burning bridges, but remember, the process can take a while. So maybe you're at your company for 6 months and then you're in at Google. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Can you give an example for the answer to the question, tell me about yourself? Absolutely. I can put it in we'll throw the resource of that video in here, but great question, Sue. I've thought a lot about that question, the role, the opportunity, and the 3 areas where I feel really connected to the organization and the role are A, B, and C. And those are the key items that I really want you to know about me and why we're sitting and having this conversation. But of course, I'm happy to dive into any of those areas in more depth and tell you a little bit more about why I think those items are critical for this position. I like short, sweet. I like identifying why I'm a fit for the role. So many people talk for too long. They talk about their history and their career, and I just want to get down to the weeds of why are you a fit for that role and build the dialogue and be different than everybody else. But I'll share that video with you. That was, I think that was the second video I ever did on YouTube. Maybe second or third, I can't remember. But it's a little bit different approach. Not everybody likes it. You don't have to use it, but it's a fluff question. It's a time wasting question. So less is more, thinking about a rule of 3 in 60 seconds or less. Thanks to you, I negotiated an L3 offer in Austin from 180 to 220. Awesome. Anchor high and be gracious and kind. Amazing, Andrew. Thank you so much for letting us know. Yeah, 220 sounds like right at the high end for an L3 suite for Austin. That's a really good offer. Glad you did it. These offers in these big tech companies, now recruiters have something that I didn't have at the time. They have the ability to give you the baseline offer. So they're just going to throw that offer out to you. They have approvals to give you the low end of the base and the equity. And they're just throwing it out there. If you are accepting the offer from a recruiter, it's the worst offer they can give you. So it's always negotiable. I'm really glad you got 40K. 40K bump for an L3 is awesome. Obviously, SWEs, you're operating in a totally different world. It's just the SWE salaries are so good, and it's because it's a unique skill set. Congrats. I think that's 4 or 5. 4 or 5. I'm gonna call it 5. I'll always go on the high end when my brain stops working. Okay, so we're going 6 here. Thanks for your content. You got the offer from Google, but your responsibility is to support Ukraine customers in Ukrainian language, and now your country is under attack. Oh my goodness. Is it possible that Google will cancel the offer or rather find a new team? No, I don't believe that they would ever do that to you. I'm really sorry. We're all sorry for the circumstances, but they won't do that to you. It's just not how they operate as an organization. Please keep us updated, come back and keep us posted, but I do not believe that they would cancel that role. All they would do is just keep paying you and have you learn the ropes and see how you can support the business in other ways. I really believe that they'll do the right thing here. Thank you for your content and ask how. Okay, yes, we actually addressed this. Thank you so much. Spread the love. Yeah, just socialization. And I mean, I think that I've seen a lot of that, and obviously I don't know how much people are on LinkedIn, but so many people say, hey, thanks to Jeff's channel, or they just share it with their friends or their family. That's really the number one way you can show gratitude to me, is just to share. And I can tell you, like, the sharing is helping. The channel is definitely experiencing some good growth, especially over the last few months. February had the most views, most subscribers, most hours watched on YouTube by far. So I'm getting out there, and hopefully I can remain as accessible as I am. That's not always easy, and that's why I try to do these lives and stay connected. We are getting a little behind, so I am going to try and pick up the pace just a little bit to catch up. What kind of questions does Google ask? Okay. Associate Product Marketing Manager position during the first interview. APMMs tend to lean a little bit more behavioral, but go to tryexponent.com and look at their practice questions just so you can get a feel, but they tend to lean behavioral. If any candidate has interviewed for the same role 3 years back and currently in process with Google, is it worth mentioning that to the recruiter? They'll be able to see that in the system. You can mention it, but they'll definitely be able to see that data in the system, your scores, everything. Thank you so much. You learned a lot. We have interviews with Google coming up. Wondering, does Google not share the interviewer names? It depends on your recruiter. Some recruiters share, some don't. I never did. I protected the confidentiality of my interviewers. It's really up to the recruiter. There is no hard, fast rule within Google. Curious about what you think for the AS role. 3 on-site interviews were skipped, and final round is with the lead. Yep. Just take it that you're doing well and just crush that interview, and that's all you can do. You can only control what they put in front of you, and I think you're in a good spot. How kind of question, senior financial analyst, Google Pay. It's modeling scenarios by use leaders to make company. Yeah. So a heavy lean on Google Pay. They're really trying to bump up that platform. They're trying to do more in more markets with Google Pay. Senior financial analyst, you have to be good at the analytical work and you have to be good at collaborating with others. So those should be your primary focus areas. There isn't any team matching for IC's roles like TAM. Yeah, you could end up in a team match for TAM. It just depends. A lot of TAMs will come in with the hiring manager predetermined. You can end up in the team matching stage for almost any role if it's more generic or they're trying to group people. It's just when we come in and there's a defined hiring manager, we're going to be connected to them throughout unless something changes. But you can team match for anything, including TAMs. Oh my goodness. Oh, we could spend, oh no, this question's going to set us back at least a half hour. Everything. I mean, it was just, the food is so unbelievable. And I hope that people get to go back to the office and experience the food. I really liked, my wife doesn't eat seafood, so I ate a lot of seafood there. There was one place called Kitchen Sink in Mountain View that made really amazing salmon. Like, it was just unbelievable. There was one place in on the last campus at the Quad in Mountain View as well that did this octopus that was crazy. I know that this is crazy. It's like so over the top. But there were so many places that had pizza. There was a sushi place. I mean, the main campus had like over 30 cafes. I don't know what that will look like in the future, but the food is something I miss. It definitely put on weight, but it's not a bad thing. Yes, you will go back to HC. That's correct. Good luck. From Singapore, okay. You completed your virtual on-site in January for Privacy Engineer and you were waiting for a fit call before HC. Okay. Recruiter informed you that you didn't qualify for the role as the interviews down level me to L3, but the role was for L4. However, she can take my file to HC. We can do a team match after HC approval and fill out the form, but today I received another update that a candidate can only go with the team match. Also, is it okay for a SWE with 10 years experience joining at L3? Okay, these are a lot of very, very good questions. So if this is the process that they're having for that they really want the team match beforehand, okay, we're just going to have to follow that process. No, I don't love you coming in with 10 years of experience and being hired in L3, but if it gets you in the door and you're able to show off your skill set, you can move up quickly. Sometimes our interview skills don't always align with our overall experience. So if you're really excited about getting in the door and you see it as a great opportunity, something I recommend. Keep us posted on that. Come back next week and let us know what's going on. Oh, sorry. How does Google compare offers for different locations? For example, your offer is for NYC, but your competing offer is for Seattle, which is lower cost of labor. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Your offer in Seattle would actually need to be higher. I don't see a lot of these like market to market comparisons. They don't like doing that, unfortunately. But if the Seattle numbers actually equated to a higher offer in Seattle, especially if you're already based there and you could argue for that, it's something to consider, but it's pretty tricky. Yeah, great question. We have a TPS screen for general GCP TPM role. The recruiter said it will be tested on my people skills. So for TPM, what they mean is they want to test your program management skills and just your overall like domain and collaboration skills. Collaboration skills come out in everything, and that's why they can say it's really people focused. So focus in on your best behavioral examples and really focus in on how you problem solve, especially for things getting off schedule, risk, requirements, all these things that happen in the program manager's world. I hope that helps. For TPM new grad role, should you expect system design for the 2 tech on-site interviews, and would love to know how you should prepare for the tech phone screen? Okay, so for new grad, it's going to lean a little bit more behavioral, but it's still be thinking about program project management skills. Your recruiters have to be telling you whether you're going to get system design. System design for a TPM new grad, I wouldn't expect it, but you just have to ask your recruiter. After your sourcer discussion, you now have a first round for a TPM. Okay. Please recommend resources to prepare for a TPM role. Okay, so I'm going to stick to those last 2 comments that I made. Really focus in on, and then just the last piece would be going back to that earlier comment, technical judgment. How do you use technology, data to make data-driven decisions? That's going to be important too. You hardly hear about Mgr roles at Google. Recently got passed on to HC, and the recruiter said you had a strong recommendation. Yeah, so I'm going to push everybody to that video from yesterday. That's going to be your best resource. But I can tell you right now, Mgr, San Diego, I would be trying to get in around 250K total comp as your 4-year average, and I would be anchoring up around 300K. Skipped HC and went to peer interviews. Is that a good sign? HM said she liked me interviewing with Google for the first time. Does Google HM make the final decision, or does HM really need buy-in from her VP and the peer interviewers? They need input from all the interviewers, and yeah, if you skipped HC, that's great. But yes, they're going to need to be validated by others. They can't make the decision if you don't have that data to back it up in the other interviews. They're not going to hire you. But good luck. It sounds positive. Networking ops. Focus in on your networking skills, right? This is networking operations is pretty straightforward. But again, when it's a new grad, they're going to lean a little bit more behavioral. That's what I've seen. Got to be good at the domain. So networking, and then you've got to be good at program management. So be able to talk about projects, scheduling, timeline, communication, all those things. Lots of TPMs today. Can 2 additional interviews after an on-site rejection in a rejection? Can 2 additional interviews after on-site? Can 2 additional interviews, after on-site result in a rejection, no matter how well the interview goes? Yeah, absolutely. Now, if the interviews went really well, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't move forward, but yes, you could still be rejected. They tend to interview in English, but I just had a funky situation with one of my clients abroad, and she had an English interview, an interview in English, an interview in Spanish. And then when she asked her recruiter what would be the last interview, she said the second interview wasn't supposed to be in Spanish. So, but you should ask your recruiter. But typically they're trying to do it in English, but sometimes they'll do a hybrid. Sometimes I've seen a hybrid within the interview of flipping back and forth. Oh, you're welcome. Is it okay to reuse behavioral scenarios from a previous interview rounds to answer a new question similar in nature? I believe it is. Now, some people will argue with me. Now, remember, with the example, you want to take that example and pivot it to really talking about different actions you took, a slightly different situation within the same example. To me, that's totally fine. And I think that there's some incorrect feedback about that. I think you can use the same example in the same interview. Like, you might give an example that's all process and strategy based, and then they ask you a conflict question. The only thing, if you're going to do that, is you say, Sue, I'd love to go back to that same example. I had this huge conflict with Bob. You know the setup. I can introduce that conflict, or I can introduce a new scenario. What do you prefer? I think people aren't willing to bring up the same example, but sometimes we have a spin-off or a different example in our larger examples. That's very common. Google asked to see my competing offer in writing. Any advice on how to ask the other company to email me the offer details? They've previously only provided the info verbally. Yeah, say, I'd really like to get it all in writing so I can make my decision, and then you can share it. I would just say that's not like a hard, fast rule. I would really push back and say, here are the verbal numbers. I can get those other numbers, but can we move forward with comp in the interim? These are the numbers I'm pushing to get it in writing. They should trust you at this point. Okay, we're an hour in. And we're catching up. We're only 17 minutes behind. We will start to catch up. It always happens at an hour. You'll see I'll get caught up really, really quickly. If you like what we're doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. I have a really challenging number. I'm trying to, and this is just for me personally, and I guess I can share because I never have. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers this year. It's a huge stretch goal for me. I would love to hit 50K. So if you've never subscribed, you like the lives, you like the original content, consider subscribing. And then lastly, 4 or 5, our paid course is coming out. Super pumped about it. It's going to be awesome. Great video on comp yesterday. How does TPM comp compare to that of a SWE for a non-FANG? With 70% of SWE, should I take number of years of experience into account? Yeah, I think TPM would be one of those roles where maybe you hedge up a little bit. Maybe it's 25%, maybe it's 20%. So you're getting 80% of a SWE salary or 75%. You just have to play around with it a little bit. But yeah, I would say closer to 75 to 80% of a SWE salary would be accurate. Number of years of experience is irrelevant. It's just about level, role, title, and location. Landed a tech role non-Google, impart your tips and on maintaining likability by paying attention to pitch and tone. Jacob, thank you so much. I think we're at 6 today, which is awesome. I love it when people come back. Sincerely appreciate it. You don't have to be here and to come and sit in these lives and actually even just take the time to put the comment. Thank you so much. Everyone who's listening, it is possible. Trust me, I did it, and all these other people have done it as well. Can't tell you that. From onsite to actually offer, from everybody who makes it to the onsite stage to landing an offer, it's a small percentage, right? 5%, something like that. Less than 10% for sure. Is Google bypassing HC more this year? Confirm thing on your inside source. Yeah, I didn't check again, but I think we can. I think the data's, I haven't checked because the data's just telling us that, right? So many people are getting through the process without HC, which means it seems as though they're showing a lot more flexibility on clear-cut packets, not going to HC, which makes total sense. It's a total waste of time if you get all strong hires, everybody likes you, the hiring manager supports it, HC doesn't need to review it, and it seems like that's the theme. I will check in with my peeps. I just haven't done it, but thank you for asking, and thanks for bringing it up. Thanks as always. What kind of questions should you expect for a strategy and ops go-to-market? Strategy and ops. Again, I really want to, I'll throw this resource in there, but more and more with the questions, I want to teach you how to create your own questions. And so much of that is going into the job description and going through that job description exercise. And I did a video on that. I'll throw it in as a resource. But for strategy and ops, right? That's what it is. We're really looking at open-ended questions that are going to ask how we strategize, how we work with ops teams, how we collaborate with other teams, and then examples of times where we've done it. I think sometimes we're overthinking the question piece a little bit, and that's not to specifically call you out, but it's just in general. I want to teach you how to create the questions because you're going to come across multiple roles in your career, and just searching and wondering what the questions are is a better path. There's an easy way to create questions. So I'll share that as a resource in there. If you want to look it up on my channel now, it's just job description video number 2. You'll find it. What's the best way to connect with a recruiter to get the process started? Reach out on LinkedIn? Nope. The chances of you reaching out to a recruiter on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'm interested for this role, let's talk. It's pretty much 0%. They're not going to, I don't think that there's and again, this is just for the overall audience. I don't think that there's an understanding of how many times these Google recruiters get reached out to on LinkedIn. I mean, it can be 100 times in one day. And that was my experience. And I think that people still don't understand that even in my current world, how many actual LinkedIn messages I get on a daily basis. It's a very, very big number. And so The best way to go about it is create a networking strategy, reach out and give. I came across this cool article that I wanted to share with you. I look forward to connecting. Comment, like people's activity on LinkedIn. That's the best way to do it. But just to reach out to try and get in front of a job. It's a strategy that does not work just from the sheer volume of people who get these emails. And you didn't even say Google, but just for anybody in a highly desired company, it's going to be really tough to get in that way. Leader role that manages PMMs. I would really look at leadership-driven questions, but for PMMs, you are going to get some product strategy questions. Absolutely, product strategy and analysis. Tryexponent.com. Again, that's tryexponent.com. Great practice questions in there. Extremely disappointed about the hiring process at Google. It's not right to give you only 3 days for 3 interviews, even though you said you needed more time to prepare. I never pushed myself so hard to make it happen. Long hours, sleepless nights. You're now sick, but thanks to you, passed at least the phone interviews by watching your video. Okay. Yeah, I mean, usually they won't do that to you. And I know we had an exchange on YouTube. Usually they won't do that to you if there's not a pressing need. So if you push back and they said no, that was just because, not because of the interviewers, it was really because they needed to move forward with that position. So I don't want you to take it personally. And yes, we can lose sleep and make ourselves sick with worry and trying to get through all this and cram all of it in. You'll have another chance if you pass the phone interview. And I know that that's not the thing you want to hear, but hopefully next time you'll have a little bit more time. Thanks for your advice. You did your interview and she said she couldn't I did ask my interviewer. Thanks for the advice. I did ask my interviewer and she said she couldn't disclose that info due to Google's policy. I'm not sure what we're talking about. Sorry, I know I'm behind, but I'm kind of caught up. If you're still here, couldn't disclose I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. Come back. Let me know. I like 3 to 5. 3 to 5 is a really good number. Oh, they told you that they couldn't disclose what was being the focus area of the interviews. That's BS. That is garbage. They can tell you, and they can absolutely tell you. And the way I would respond is you could say, you know, it's really interesting. The last 3 of my friends who interviewed at Google, their recruiters told them the focus areas of the interview. So I'm really just curious what's different about this team in this role. I'd really appreciate that because my friends are getting insight. So I'm really curious as to why I'm not getting insight. There's a focus area for these interviews. They should be telling you. And they just need to give you more information. It's just pure laziness. And this is where, again, I talk about keeping it positive, but we don't want toxic positivity. We have to call this out. This is bad behavior. You need to push back. Just push back in a friendly way. They should be able to share more. They should be setting you up for success. They should be your advocate. And you need to call them out on that. That is just that, like, it's not confidential. It's not confidential for me to tell you, you have a Googleyness and leadership interview today. You have a general cognitive ability. You have a technical judgment interview. It's not confidential. I have given you no data, given you nothing to go on. So it's frustrating. So push back, please. Thank you as always. Don't see much for supply chain warehouse operation. Yeah, I mean, I do work with a lot of people in supply chain, but they tend to be more programmatic. Now, for supply chain warehouse operations, right, this is all about efficiency, improved process, like little small increments of how you can make things better. And then how you communicate those changes to others are going to be some of the most critical items I've seen from this standpoint. And it could just be about shifting schedules, moving things around, getting things aligned, using better systems or processes. I love the supply chain stuff. To me, it's really, really interesting, and especially given some of the challenges in the supply chain. Yeah, I don't have a ton of data on that, but I hope that info helps. If they ask you, how would you, do you give an example of previous or talk hypothetically? How is an open-ended hypothetical question that should be answered by problem solving. Hi, Jeff, reaching out from Spain. Awesome. Barcelona is the only city I've been there, but it was amazing. Thanks for all the support. Been watching your channel for some time. We have your RRK interview next week for agency. Best tips. Is this an agency account strategist? Come back and tell me more. Industry hire, SWE, L3. When would be a good time to ask your manager for a promo plan? To L4. I mean, I think depends. I think okay. So we've chatted many times. This is early. I don't even know if you've started or you just started. Give it 3 to 6 months, and then once you're in there, you can start working on it. But I wouldn't be asking about a promotion right away. That would not. I would not be happy as a manager. Just give it a tiny bit of time. You know, at least a couple quarters to get your feet wet, and then you can start talking about a plan. Is it fine to use a presentation to show my results from previous experience? They ask me behavioral questions. It's not recommended. Yeah. You can always have something ready. If they're like, that's really interesting, you could say, you know what? Actually have it pulled up just so I could share my screen. If you're interested, happy to share it with you, but I wouldn't introduce it. It's just kind of an engagement and excitement. I don't really like that. I'm trying to see how you verbally communicate information, not through visuals typically, unless it's like a system design type of interview. Forgot to ask, is it best to redo your Googleyness for a TPM role? Yes, James, that's my strong recommendation. Right now you're between L4 and L5. Yeah. Yes, I would redo it. And again, if you missed earlier, I just think that that's hands down the easiest interview of all the interviews to redo, in my opinion. How easy is it to go from TPM to PM? So are we saying technical program manager to product manager, or technical program manager to SWE? It really depends on your skill set. Program to product is a very hard switch, and then TPM to SWE wouldn't be as hard if you had a CS degree and you were really strong at coding. Thanks for doing this. You have a question on HC review. Is it expected to nail all the rounds? That's the goal. The goal is to nail all the rounds and just crush it across the board. We don't always do that, right? That's not always the case. But yeah, the goal is to crush it as much as you can. If you have a bad interview, let it go. Don't worry about it. There can always be an outlier. There can always be an opportunity to redo it. Don't let it get you down. You know, and I actually have a personal story on that really quickly that I don't know if I've ever told in the lives. When I had my interviews as a contractor, so I was in San Diego at the time, I'm back now, and I had 4 video interviews. And one was for a sourcer. I didn't want to be a sourcer. I was really wanted the recruiter role. And the interview schedule got totally messed up on that day. Everything got switched around, which actually ended up working in my favor. But the first interview was for a sourcer, and I bombed it. I didn't let it. I was like kind of happy. I was like, okay, like that was a terrible interview. Now I just need to move on. And then the other 3 interviews that were for the recruiter role, I did really well. And obviously I got hired, and now we're chatting via live on YouTube. Just do your best and don't let one bad interview get you down if that happens. After HC, they asked for another interview with the HM. The day of the interview, the HM didn't show up. Then it was rescheduled. The interview was not with the HM. It was with another engineer. Is that normal? No, let's see what the other comment is. Also, I got an AWS certification. Would that help my candidacy? You're applying for a TSS at GCP. Well, I think let's go back to each question. So, I mean, I think any sort of certification in the cloud is going to be helpful. I mean, if you're going after GCP, I want you to get a GCP certification, of course, but the cloud knowledge is similar. But on this question, yeah, I mean, that's a huge flag for me. The hiring manager skips the interview with you. That's bad. And then they back it up with not getting an interview with them. I would really just try to talk to the recruiter about like what's going on here and just get some clarity. And again, just be gracious and kind. Okay. You're the guy who never received a final offer from Google from November, had a chat with the recruiter, said my feedback is positive and sharing it with different managers. Should you stay hopeful? Yes. Positivity is a good thing, even though not everybody likes it. Um, it's a good thing. Continue to keep us updated. Again, I'm sorry that it took so long, but I'm glad you heard back and you actually have a path forward. Currently have an offer and about to receive one more. The role is solutions architect, but now Google came calling for an interview for TPM. I'm confused. You have said, I'm confused, although I have said I have 20 days. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're just going to have to judge those other offers, and then you're just going to have to let them know, hey, I have offers. Can you move mountains? They can, but oftentimes they just choose not to. So it just depends on their interest level. But I want you to just see the process through regardless if you can. The recruiter called today to let you know that you did not make it to HC, but you interviewed well. Definitely keep trying for product ops. Okay. Go to this next one too. He also informed me that he would be leaving Google soon if his position would be backfilled. What can I do to leverage both the recruiter and referral? Well, try to see if you could get their information for the backfill, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So this is a tricky situation. So you're just going to have to work probably more with your referral in the future. Would be my best guess. Okay, London, amazing. Completed your on-site last week, but yet to get any update. Reached out to the recruiter who said he's still waiting on feedback. Okay. You applied for tech ops manager role in London, but while waiting for the feedback on the on-site, the recruiter reached out and asked if I was still open to London too. Yeah, good sign. Yeah, keep us posted. What kind of guidance can we give a recruit going? What kind of guidance maybe that you want me to give? What kind of guidance do you give to a recruit going into their first technical interview? Christy, I can't remember your role. Come back and let me know the role. The role is agency account strategist. Yeah. So Edgar, I want you to go watch the account strategist video. The agency piece, it's just a little bit of a different partnership, different relationship, but the questions are going to be very, very similar. Go watch that video. Same sorts of tips. You really have to build these strong external relationships and know how to work internally too. Do not forget about your internal teams. A lot of account strategist clients, account strategists and account strategists for the agency side. And it's just not enough of an internal lens to work with internal teams to build strong solutions, something I strongly recommend. Yeah, so I can't answer that question because I don't know. I don't know the location. I can never answer total comp questions without the location because the comp swings so greatly. So if you want to let me know, but 5 years of experience is an L3 or L4. And obviously I did that video yesterday that I'm prompting everybody to, which caused less compensation questions today, which was nice. How technical does the new grad TPM get? Are they conceptual or hands-on coding? What should you focus in on? Just have an idea about everything tech and no idea about program management. Okay, well, that's going to be a part of it, right? And so technical program managers, unless you're a technical program manager, software engineering, should not be coding. We really need to get these answers from our recruiters. They should be giving us more details and more information about what the interview process looks like. Typically, the very intro level roles for these types of positions tend to lean a little bit more behavioral. Yeah, so internal raises at Google are really tough. Here's how you get more money. You crush it. You crush it. You get exceed, strongly exceed, superb. You build a great plan with your manager to work towards promotion. Again, wait about 6 months on that, 3 to 6 months, but just take on anything and everything, create great relationships with leadership, because that's going to be your best opportunity. But sometimes we come in a little bit on the low end. That's okay. If you crush it, they'll make it up over time. Typically that's 3 interviews, typically, but it can always skew. You're welcome. Believe in Dublin, yeah, that you can ask for base salary range. The level of an account strategist role is going to be usually 3 to 5, but it depends on your years of experience. Got rejected on the phone screen with Google in December 2021. Can you apply to another job now? Only a few recruiters are recurring for the non-tech positions. I wouldn't, if you got rejected in December, I wouldn't apply for the same position, but can you apply for a different position? Absolutely. The role is L3. Okay, so I'm totally confused. To what kind of guidance can we give recruit if they're a recruiter? So you're looking, what kind of guidance? So you're going in after an L3 sourcer role at Google. So an L3 second, I'm very, very confused. So I'm confused. If you can come back and let me know, I'm not sure what you're asking me for. Cover letter is, okay, so I'm going to talk a lot about cover letters here. That's no surprise. I don't talk about cover letters because if you're going after a job at a big tech company, they're useless. And here's the reason why. These internal employees don't have time to read your resume, let alone a cover letter. And people do not like my comment, but I never read a cover letter in my 5 years at Google. I didn't have the time. So I have a bunch of friends who do videos on cover letters, and I think it's great for a more generic audience. But like if you're going after big tech, cover letters, they don't really carry any weight because people don't read them. I'm going to call this an L3 role. I'm going to say 150K total comp, maybe less. For warehouse ops, L3 total comp 150K and maybe a better first year, but the total comp could be 130, 135, something like that. Jeff, when you say high anchor high, does that mean a high number in the known range, or would it be okay to reach above? Yes, it's okay to reach above. I'm always thinking kind of like this 20 or 30% more than what you want based on the data and information. So if we think they're going to offer 70, we want 100, we go after 130K, for example, just to use simple numbers. And with the goal of we went at 130, they're coming in at 70, and they actually meet us at that number in the middle, 100, which is what we want. My GCA question is, you have to launch a new product online. Which product would it be? The interviewer didn't answer any of your clarifying questions. Yep. A lot of times in these interviews, I wouldn't either. I did mostly GCA interviews, and I didn't answer questions either. Clarification, this is a great data point. If you get an interviewer who just sits there, or it's just like, I don't like questions, don't ask them, we still clarify. We just change it from, is this a new or existing product, to I'd be thinking through if this is a new or existing product. So you just change your pitch and tone, but we still go through the clarification process because you're still presenting data. So we don't ever switch from CFAS. We always use CFAS, but not answering the questions is very, very common. I would say at least half of the interviewers aren't answering any of your questions. For new grad TPM, you're told there would be 2 tech interviews and 2 PM. Just wondering. Okay, so again, these are, I have to push back again, that this is a question that you have to ask your recruiter. Um, the technical interviews should not be coding interviews, or system design or anything, but I don't know the TPM role. So if it's a TPM suite, you could be more technical. If it's not, it should be technical that's more domain specific. That's the best I can do. The recruiters are our best source of data. Oftentimes, I'm just being asked to answer questions that are impossible for me because I'm not there, and I'm not going to be helpful for you. How many days out can you schedule your virtual on-site? Once you hear back from the recruiter, ask your recruiter again. I don't know. They might have 10 candidates in process, and if you don't interview in the next week or 2, you're going to lose the opportunity. So you just have to ask. And I think it's a very, very fair question to say, hey, am I putting anything at risk if I push this interview out 5 or 6 weeks? I think oftentimes we push out a little too far, but obviously there are personal items always going on in our lives. So, but it's you ask, and if they accept, then take that extra time. Is it possible for Google to apply for H-1B visa during the team match stage? Nope, it's not. You have to have a signed offer for them to start that process. I think, did we say Mountain View for this? I'm just trying to go back and check my notes. I don't know the location. If you could remind me, I might have forgotten. Remind me on location. If TPM is about 75% of the suite, what is the ratio from PM to suite? So do we mean product manager or program manager? But program manager would be more in that 70% range. Recruiters may reject right away when they see you got rejected a few months ago, even for different roles. One keeps rejecting my resume and found out she's also in charge. Well, yeah, I mean, because the likelihood is you're going to be going after similar types of positions. I would say just give it a little bit of time, grow your overall skill set and your interview skill set. Yeah, I mean, I want network ops. So I want you to have a strong foundation in networking. You don't have to know everything about GCP. How far in advance do recruiters let you know that they'll be submitting your profile to HC? Depends. Depends on the recruiter. Yeah, I mean, they should be transparent and letting you know ASAP. They're going to ask for a bunch of items. The biggest one I want you to know is they're going to ask for your comp expectations, and you will leave that blank or say 0. Been waiting on headcount since passing HC in November. Recruiter keeps telling me to sync in a month before I can begin matching. You don't know what to do. Keep syncing. I mean, that is literally the only thing you can control. You know, anything else is totally outside of our control. Not sure if it's a good idea to reach out to the recruiter that rejected me and ask her for the reasons. Cool off time. You can always ask, but not sure if they'll give you a response. Okay, so sorry. So you asked about product. It's just a lot of jumping around, right? So it's like, should I go from a TPM to a product manager or to a suite? I can't answer those questions for you, but product is tough. You really have to have a product skill set to get in front of a product role. That's probably the highest in demand role in the world, along with AI and ML suites. New grad TPM, Sunnyvale, 150, 160. Seattle might be a little bit lower. Those items might skew. You can watch the video I did yesterday to take a look. Levels.fyi is a good resource. Explain a little bit more about frameworks. What's the purpose with that? Can you give any examples? So the goal of a framework is to keep you organized. It's basically answering the question. So we clarify, then we present the framework, which is basically the solution. It's A, B, C, D, and E. Solves for the answer. But what you're trying to do is stay organized to say, okay, to our interviewer, Sue, here's the answer. It's these 5 things, but I think we should focus in on X. What do you think? The framework is showing you know how to answer the question, but what it's also doing is making sure that we're not spending time talking about everything at a very high level. We want to pick one thing and focus in on it. So yeah, you can go to my channel. I can throw it in as a resource. Check out the collaborative framework video or the program manager framework video, or obviously I've done a lot of videos on frameworks, but the goal is you're showing that you know how to solve, and then you're able to pick one item to focus in on at a time, because so many people answer with fluff. I want you to get into the weeds of one thing because you've already shown me that you know everything you need to talk about. I hope that helps. We are at an hour and a half in, and I'm going to start closing out here in a second. So I'll get to all the questions that come in, but I'm just going to do my closeout now because I like to do that about an hour and a half in. If you like what we did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. And we have that paid course coming out on 4/5, and I'll continue to kind of highlight that. Thanks. Interview coming up with the HM for a financial analyst. TI, any guidance to prep? First interview. Yeah, financial analyst, again, the biggest thing is really showing how you drive results with data. And then I need my analysts to be collaborative. I need them to be really good with people. Those are the 2 biggest focus areas that I force with my financial analyst clients. Is it possible to apply for roles overseas like non-tech, like AM role, example, working in Asia as an Asian citizen? It's challenging. Yeah, so like these sponsorship items are just challenging. It's best to, if possible, get an offer in your home location, and then once you're in, transfer. That's the easiest path. It's a much, much harder path to get in the door because there's requirements to bring in somebody from another country. You have to have a very, very unique skill set, typically. I'm going to send you back again to that account strategist video. RRK is going to be all about driving ad solutions for your customers and clients, and then working with internal teams to have that success. I would not move away from product. The salaries are higher. It's the hottest job in the market. I wouldn't go from a PM to a TPM. It's your personal choice, but that's just my 2 cents. About TM for Privacy Eng, how should I proceed? Can I rely on jobs posted on the career page or look for new roles for privacy engineers? And yeah, I mean, obviously you can always check online. My recommendation is networking. I recommend that you network, but do not ask to be given a role or an opportunity for a role. Share data. Share a great article, a great video, comment on items on LinkedIn. I like a LinkedIn networking approach. We can put that as a resource in this video, but asking for jobs, and I don't know if that's what you're asking, but asking for jobs is tricky. Okay, you've gone through HC, but the HM ended up going with another candidate. How long is it good to go through the process again? I mean, you should stay pretty active. There's a pretty good opportunity here, so just create a cadence with your recruiter and make sure you're staying in touch with them. That's going to be critical. If you got all the way through the process, you should have another opportunity soon. I wish you the best of luck. Come back and let us know how it's going. We're at the end of questions. Thank you so much, everybody. We will be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.